has the significant points that you want to have as far as what the fees are and what the obligations are. And I think that's important. And so I think having somebody local and Andy Howard is qualified to do this. So, I think that would be a good choice for the board.
Yeah, I have a question. Also, I wanted, Andy Howard has certainly worked for us on many other CEDC and other boards I've been on. What if Andy Howard is your personal lawyer? Do you accuse yourself? Or now, what do you have to disclose with it?
You mean if you're the developer and he's your lawyer, or a member of this board?
Member of the board.
I don't think there's any.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't relate to the project, I think he's.
You could disclose
okay.
it.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'll disclose right now that he's my personal lawyer.
yeah.
Hey, you're my lawyer, aren't you?
This is true.
This is small.
Careful what you ask.
You're everybody's lawyer.
Be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah, I don't really think that's in the conflict area.
Oh,
It never hurts to basically mention it to the board, but,
We had those situations down with the city.
yeah,
It's irrelevant.
but clearly it's, if he's involved in the project, obviously.
Oh, yes, that's a different story.
Yeah. And that may be true in the future. He may, he represents some corporate entities and business entities, so.
Well, I've never known him or you to be anything but completely honorable and
Yeah,
upfront. And thank you.
true.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I agree that that's a good characterization of Andy as well.
So, any other discussion? If not, we need a motion and a second to accept Andy Howard, or Freeman Howard, as our legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So,
Aye.
okay.
Just an FYI,
Okay.
I really haven't charged CRC this past year. We really haven't done anything, so.
Well, we appreciate
And I
that.
think Andy will have the same viewpoint, unless CRC becomes active in doing something, he'll just bill for IDA time.
Right. Okay, any public comment? Question? I'm sorry, Brian, did you have something?
Nope, nothing at this time. Thanks.
All
Motion
right.
to adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So next, we're gonna move on to IDA Finance Committee. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were looking for the report.
We gotta do the minutes
Yep.
from March 15, 2021. Need a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Next, we have your treasurer's report.
Thank you. We currently have $14,000 in the checking account and $5,000 in the money market account for just under $20,000. We do have $21,000 in the escrow account for Route 9 Realty. That's in compliance with the closing documents that we will hold that as collateral for the pilot payments. And we also are holding a note on a property that's sold to Hudson River Valley Holding. They continue to owe us $6,000. And you'll recall that we had given them an extension on the requirement that they build on that site within a specific time period. But as part of that extension, we increased the amount of the penalty mortgage. And, at this time, we have undertaken an appraisal of the remaining parcel that's for sale at the Commerce Park. And I think once we see that appraisal, we can review whether we are willing to make a further extension to this developer, but based on that appraisal, or whether at the end of the extension that's in effect, we would take back the property. With respect to assets, we are awaiting an $18,000 fee in connection with the Clock Estates closing. My understanding is they ACH'd it to us, but somehow our system kicked it back.
I think that's 28,000.
Is it 20? I'm sorry, 28,000?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
28 out of the 70 that they owe us. The balance will be due upon the financial closing, but this was, as you know, an interim closing to provide them with the sales tax exemption. So that will give us about $48,000. We may have to request the board meet in November for a special meeting. If the date works, we would just pick the second or is it the second or it's the first Tuesday of the month? As we understand we may have an application soon on a housing project in Greenport. So
The 28,000 is in the mail?
it's electronically, it came to us, but it got kicked back by the bank. So I'm not sure if there was a if there was a transposition of a number. But once that will be in the bank this week and will be reported on the October 30th financial statement.
Okay.
Our liabilities include the escrow account that we're holding, and also our liabilities show the what we owe the county, and with respect to the land sale, which shows an equal amount, $6,059 to match the asset. Therefore, our unrestricted fund balance is $20,000, and when we get the fee from Clock, we'll have $48,000 in the bank. Are there any questions on the financial report? If not, we'll just jump to the P&L. I meant the asset balance sheet. On the P&L, you can see that we have not had any transactions this year, so the only income was the fees we had on the GTEL project, and also that we're going to have on the Clock project. You can see that our total income, therefore, so far, when you include the annual administrative fees and the annual fee, it's $12,000. We've had legal and accounting fees. We've had the fee to CEDC and insurance. So right now we're running at a negative 14,000. But again, if we do have a balance of $42,000 in fees on the financial closing of Clock, and if this housing project is approved by the planning board in Greenport and goes forward through the IDA, and the IDA agrees to participate in the financing with the developer, that would be a $20 million project and would bring in a $200,000 fee. So, again, there'll be issues that you'll want to address with respect to a housing project. I know the city IDA has done housing projects, but I'm not sure the county IDA has done one at least in a number of years. So,
Right, that's accurate. I don't think
they may
in my
have
tenure we've done a housing project,
Yeah.
but it's capable.
Right.
It's one of the categories that you can consider.
And my understanding is that it would be what's known as affordable, so that it would be capped at 130% of adjusted county income. So a family making more than $90,000 or $100,000 wouldn't be able to live there. And again, it's not focused on moderate or low income, but it is capped for working people.
Right.
I think there'll be a number of issues that you'll want to address as part of that discussion. So, but that again would affect. I don't see that closing this year, I do see the clock closing on their financing this year. So we would end the year with a positive balance, and then we'd have funding for next year, assuming either that deal or another deal closes. Any questions on the P&L? On the budget,
Say Lloyd.
Sorry.
we're gonna take them together, or?
I was gonna do them together.
On the budget, Lisa and I looked over the budget. Historically, we put a $50,000 administrative fee in the hopes that we get at least a $5 million project rate of 1% fee. We are talking about a possibility of a much larger fee, but we also haven't had an application submitted and the board hasn't approved anything. So we thought we would, again, be conservative. We would be receiving the principal payments on the Commerce Park loan. We get to keep the interest payments. We do look at application fees. And I'm thinking that our application fee is what, $1,000?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
higher if the project is higher, though.
Right.
I think it goes to $2,000. I don't have that.
So I'm wondering, Lisa, on the application fee, should we modify that? I don't see, if we made that $2,500, we would still have a positive $2,650 balance, but I can't imagine that we projects at $1,000 or $1,500. So I think if we reduce that, that's what we had last year, but if we reduce that for 2022, and then on the administrative side, we're presuming that you would keep our contract in place. I think we've discussed in the past the fact that our contract with the City of Hudson IDA is a little different. They wanted to pay as you go, if you will, where we collect $10,000 a year, and if there is any closings, we get 10% of their fee. So, for instance, if the two Galvin projects that are approved by the IDA and the project at 620 Union, which the City of Hudson IDA approved, there would be $47,000. Would be $47 million of development between the two housing projects and the hotel, and the city would get a $470,000 IDA fee, and we would get $47,000. So on a dollar cost average, we would get more under the pay-as-you-go fee if there are deals. On the other hand, if we're not having deals consistently, next year, if the housing project did go through, we would end up with $30,000 instead of $24,000. So I think that, certainly there is $24,000 worth of work based on the regulatory compliance, the accounting, dealing with the ABO, dealing with scheduling, and following up with the minutes and other administrative tasks. So we would, request that you consider probably at the next meeting, when we renew the contract for next year, have a discussion as to which fee structure you feel is better. It does impact CEDC's budget, so we would want to know before the end of the year. But the way I've looked at it, if we received $47,000 and we've received over the last 3 years $30,000, that's $77,000. And if you divide that by 3 years, it's just over 25 grand, and you're paying us a flat fee of 24. So pay the same amount, I believe, over a 3 or 4 year period on an average, but it is helpful to us to know with some level of certainty, that we're getting 24,000 versus 10, and also, we aren't able to take any fee on CRC, and we're providing a grant to CRC. That's more informational so that you can, again, think about it. I know in previous years, one or two board members who have, whose term has expired or who have resigned, had questioned whether, a flat fee with no deals was appropriate. But when you look at it, it could appear we're getting a windfall in years where we had a number of deals.
Okay,
Any questions?
I think it's hard to say because Hudson's in a boom right now and that might not last, so.
There is a fixed cost of running the IDA. And, we think that the $24,000 is appropriate and is fair based on the time that Lisa and I and our bookkeeping staff and others spend on it. There's a lot of calls from people who want to know, what do you do? Can you help us? Someone's got to take those calls and go through a process with them. And on the other hand, I do think that when you look at the city, as Sarah said, it's probably a boom. But if you recall, we agreed to do that at the time the state told them to close their IDA,
Right.
with the idea that if they were successful in doing deals, that we would ultimately, they would have enough money to have their own IDA executive director. And, there wouldn't be a need to contract with us. I mean, we're still open to contract, but, if they do close those deals and they have $470,000 in the bank, they may decide that they want to administer the IDA through a different model. So at the end, the goal was to help them not lose their IDA, because if you lose your IDA, you never get it back, because it's created by statute, and the legislative temperament and temperature for IDA, creating new IDAs is not is pretty high in the worst way. So I think that again, we were providing somewhat of a service to the city to help them in a situation where they were trying to decide whether they had to follow through with the state directive or whether we could come in and help them restore the agency. And between our work and the projects that we've been working on with the city, there are a lot of projects, because right behind the 3 projects I mentioned, there's an IDA meeting tomorrow where an application from the pocketbook factory is coming in. And that would be an additional $250,000 fee for the city if that goes forward. There are issues. The question for these IDAs now is, does a planning board issue stop an IDA financing? And if a planning board approves it, what is the IDA's purview in terms of reviewing projects, and whether issues of parking and noise and those things are in the realm of an IDA decision, and really it's not. So I think that we had 38 letters opposing the Galvin housing projects, and we had 28 in favor, Lisa? So you will get the community participation, and the agency does receive those letters and takes them into account, each member of the agency, before they vote. But I think if that project goes forward, even if it's scaled back, they'll have $600,000 in the bank at the city IDA.
I always thought that, it's really up, if the municipality approves the project, it's not really the IDA's role, I think, to basically agree or disagree with the project.
Right.
If it's a worthy project to fund it. The IDA's role is to help them with the financing.
Right.
If the IDA feels that they're a qualified candidate to do that. And like to try to keep out of the controversy as to whether it should or shouldn't be a project to be approved, and let the local municipality handle that. I think that's the way it should go.
I think the issue we've seen is that because the IDA in many instances uses the lead agency as the local planning board, that really the the IDA shouldn't vote on a project until the planning board has made a determination. And once the planning board has made the determination, it's really, as Ted mentions, it's outside the scope of the IDA to re-review that. Obviously, if the people who are for or against the project win or lose at the planning board, and they can make a pitch and distract an IDA from its purpose to either move a project forward that they want or defeat that they are opposed to, it's one more bite at the apple.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
I think the board does have some review authority to determine, whether it's a worthy project in terms of the IDA's participation in the financing, but
Yeah, let's say if there's
but
no new
that's kind of where
employees
it
or something,
stops.
if there's no benefits.
Right, that's exactly right, yeah. So, I mean, there's certainly IDA issues for the project to determine, as to whether IDA financing should apply because, if they're not creating the requisite number of jobs or, is it.
of serving a community
Is it
need.
worthy of.
Yeah, there's I
But
think we have
that's
6 criteria and
Yeah.
finding statement.
Yeah, so there are different issues with the IDA as opposed to whether the project should or shouldn't be approved in the first place, which the municipality will determine.
You would think that anybody with that type of a project
Yeah.
would go to both entities first, and like you say, we got
Yeah.
criteria. They're gonna have to,
Yeah.
have to come and know the game rules
Right.
with the IDA before they go in front of planning.
Well, generally they do, at least in the
That's
city.
what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
usually do.
They, and, I think that, it's just, and housing is different, in the sense that, particularly right now, median sale price of houses in Columbia County has gone up from $240,000 to $370,000 over the last 18 months. Now, some of that could be an aberration at any one month because there could be 5 houses that sold and 2 of them were in the $1 million range, and it brings up the average. But there's been tremendous displacement, both in the city and throughout the county, in housing with respect to gentrification and people buying homes and renovating them. And the real issue is not only where is there opportunities for affordable housing, but where are there opportunities for low-income housing? And as you know, the issue that we really have relates to the fact that in Columbia County, there are only 6 water sewer districts. So there's only, 6 towns or so where you can have water, sewer, gas, electric, and broadband at the same location. And you can't, in Livingston, as an example, you'd be lucky to build a 4-unit, you'd need 4 acres of septic fields to build a 4-unit apartment house. And so, it does make it very, very difficult. We are looking at CEDC we're working with Pattern for Progress on a report that looks at the towns that have water and sewer. Towns that don't, we're looking at what opportunities are there for state-of-the-art or best practice septic. And then in communities where, in all communities, what funds are available through the state or through other entities to fix houses that are fallen into disrepair, whether it's wood rot, new windows, new heating systems, because, in Hudson as an example, and I would suspect it's probably maybe 50-50% in the county, but in Hudson, 70% of the single-family homes were built before 1940. So, there's a tremendous opportunity to restore housing stock in the villages and hamlets throughout the county, where those homes were built, years ago when people clustered either in the village or in a hamlet. So, I think that we have to look at a broad range of housing solutions, from helping people fix up the house they live in, but at the same time, make it affordable for them to continue to live there. And I think we've seen in the city, there were the 3 houses over on Worth Avenue that I use as an example. They all sold for about $130,000. Someone bought them. They turned them back into single-family homes from 2-family homes. they had been renovated into years ago. They put $200,000 or $300,000 in them, so now they have, you know, 300 or 400 grand in them, and they sold them for $600,000. You know, that's happening now out in the villages too, and the hamlets. And so, you know, again, trying to put in a single family subdivision is difficult because of the health department's restrictions on septic and leach fields and the like. So, you know, the county is looking at housing. Have a task force on it that I participate in with Commissioner Gibson and several of the supervisors. And, you know, the real issue is with our population, the recent census data showed a 35% drop in people under 18, 35% increase in people over 65, and 0.02 variance in the rest of the population, 18 to 65. So, and it also showed that we had an increase from 25,000 single-family homes to 30,000. But, you know, we've looked at records from the Real Property Tax Office that shows at least 4,200 homes where the tax bill goes out of the county to be paid. And so we've extrapolated from that there's probably 10,000 people living in 5,000 second homes here. And, you know, that's going to be harder to track because if you were up here all forwarded it, because as you know, Columbia County was the largest, was the highest number of people who had their mail transferred in any zip codes in the country during COVID. And so, you know, I think it's going to be harder and harder to identify that by just, you know, do you get your bill at your condominium in Manhattan? Because you're probably getting your mail here now. And, you know, county's continuing to work on broadband, and CEDC has just completed an initial study with respect to identifying 911 addresses without broadband. And they we've come up with about 1,200 addresses, but they're scattered all throughout the towns. And as you know, we have 5 providers, and we're hoping that we'll be able to get federal and state and local funding to help those providers expand the next mile, not the last mile, but the next mile from the systems they already have in place. And then to the extent that there's still gaps, there would be a reverse auction amongst the providers to be able to get to that last mile. But that's going to be expensive in many cases. So, and I do at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be on a panel on workforce development with Nardone, who's the director of Workforce New York for Columbia and Greene County, as well as Jeff Friedman from the Greene County Chamber, because we're at 20% employment. We're at 80% full employment, and we're the second lowest unemployment in the state. And so when you go to you know, look at, and there's over 1,200 job openings when they do this aggregate review of Indeed and the labor department's lists in the county. So, you know, there's not enough people here, and with the population staying stagnant and, you know, over 900 people less in the city, and 30% of the people who work and live in the county go out of the county in the morning. You know, there's a lot of issues as to, it's more about how you attract people to stay here, younger people or people who have gone to school and come and have jobs in larger metropolitan areas, how to get them back here. Because if we don't, you know, if we don't, and there's only, when you take all 6 school districts, there's only 500 seniors in combined. But I think when you look at housing, you look at jobs, you look at available workers for the jobs. I know, you know, we've been looking for a project manager for 3 months, and every time we get close, they find another job that pays more. And so it's, it's great that we have all this activity. I mean, sales tax is up 23% from 2019 to date this year. We have the lowest unemployment in the state, next to Gates County, and consistently running 28 months. So, it's great metrics, but when you get granular, it's a tough situation for businesses trying to get employees. And in some cases, it's hard for employees who need reskilled training and education. So I think that and the school districts is important as well.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report and the 2022 budget.
I'll move it.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any public comments? Need a motion and a second to close the IDA Finance Committee.
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So-
Aye.
All right, we'll go into the IDA board agenda. First thing is the draft minutes from August 3rd, 2021. Give me a motion and a second.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Treasurer's report.
I recommend to the approval of the full board, the treasurer's report made to the finance committee,
Okay,
as well as the 2022 budget. That was recommended by the finance committee.
I'll make a motion.
motion, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. The administrative director's report.
I think I gave most of it in
Okay.
the last meeting.
That's
Yeah.
us.
But, it is, we have all been flat out. We have a list of about 25 viable projects throughout the county. We play various roles. Obviously, most of them are below a threshold that would justify the complexity or additional costs related to IDA financing. But, we have, we were out in Copake last week on a tour with Empire State Development. We did have 25 CFA projects for the governor's regional economic development process. That's a little bit more than our, we're one of 8 counties, and 25 out of 200 applications throughout the region put us higher than our fighting weight as a single county out of 8. And on a population size, it put us, almost 20% of the projects. So I do think that activity, those projects consisted, about half of them were water sewer projects for municipalities. The other half were arts and cultural organizations, and then private sector businesses. And it's been a busy time. And we are also working with the county to look at what in broadband at CEDC, and also are there additional CARES Act funds or ARPA funds that could be used to support small businesses. Right now, we have about 2,000 small businesses or 2,000 private sector businesses in the county based on the recent census data. 70% of those are under 10 employees. We validated those numbers with PPP data. As you know, PPP data is out there. It not only lists the company, it lists how many employees they certified, it lists what their payroll was for 8 weeks. And when you look at that, 1,400 companies received PPP 1 and or 2. So, that was almost 75% of the total companies. And when you look at that data, based on the fact that they had to report how many employees they each had, it was, again, about 70% of those companies are under 10 employees. So it was self-validating. And it also, with that level of data, we have now some prospecting, not only for CEDC loans and technical services, but also CEDC membership. So it's, you know, we are at the crossroads, and, you know, I do see continued development in Hudson and throughout the towns, but infrastructure and is very critical. And I think you're aware that at the Commerce Park, you know, there are a couple of lots left after this final lot that's, you know, that I want to talk about in a moment. Is you know, there's infrastructure needs, but the Commerce Park did have to build a new sewer line because the small plant that was located there had to be abandoned because of saw its useful life extended beyond DEC's willingness to let it operate, and that line has been put in, and you know, that possibly will open up that Route 9 H66 corridor because although the rest of that corridor is not in the Commerce Park footprint sewer district, you know, we're hearing already requests for people wanting to begin to sell their land or develop property up there. So, you know, I think we're going to have to start looking at some smart growth, and but I think if you don't put a traffic circle up there soon, it's going to be the next place you can build because it has all the utilities in one location. So.
Want to go right into Clark Estates?
Yes, Clock Estates, I think we updated you. Ted was able to close the interim financing.
We approved the interim financing to allow them to have a sales tax exemption on the purchase of some of their equipment, which they're involved in doing now. And then the second part of the transaction will be they'll come back to the IDA to finalize their financing, and basically I think we have to iron out the final terms of a proposed pilot agreement for the board's consideration, right?
We
One of the things I just wanted to mention on the pilot, while I had it on my mind, is that we will have to take some kind of security for that pilot when we do it, either some kind of a cash account that they pledge for escrow or a pilot mortgage. Pilot mortgages have always been problematic for the lenders that want to finance. They don't really understand the concept of a pilot mortgage, but we've been using escrow. So that's something that we'll have to consider going forward.
We had looked at the 485B model for the pilot, which is consistent with the agency's uniform pilot policy.
Yeah.
The issue had become because a portion of the property is subject to agricultural ag exemptions under the property tax law, you know, what the assessed value would be. And I think as they get closer to completing, you know, their plan and building it, we'll have a better idea of what the assessor is going to put on that property. Great. Let's see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the new project.
Yeah, we need to. We did Clock. Let's put the new project to the end.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
And then on the Commerce Park, we just talked about the sewer. SAD development is the project that we had an option where we brought in $7,500, but the developer decided to go, or his client decided to go forward with a project, building the project in Dutchess County along Route 84. Limbs Machinery, if you drive by the Commerce Park, you can see the project has been completed, and they're going to have a ribbon cutting that you all be invited. We're still working with Harpus and Hudson River Valley Holding, although the Harpus project is a CEDC mortgage, but they are related because Harpus is also a partner in Hudson Valley Holding, and you know, they are now moving forward, trying to get planning board approval for construction, and they do realize that I think they have till next spring under the extension we gave them during COVID to build or pay a penalty. We do need to discuss legal counsel. Are there any questions on the Commerce Park? If not, Mr. Chairman, we had the discussion at CRC related to legal counsel. We only received one response to the RFP from the IDA. That also was Freeman Howard, with Andy Howard as the partner who would be providing the services. I would open that to discussion or approval.
Has anybody got any questions on that?
No, I'd just like to say that we had a lot of comments already under CRC, so we have discussed this thoroughly. And I
Right.
want to thank Ted again for, is this your last meeting, Ted, you think? Or?
It is, I think so. Well,
One more.
we'll probably stay on
Yeah.
for Clark.
Yeah.
'Cause
There'll be a
Andy
transition.
represents Clark, I think.
Yeah.
and-
So there'll have to be a transition, but,
Yeah.
so we're not letting you off so quick. By year end, we'll have you out of here with our
I'm
promise.
certainly committed to assist Andy in any way, or continuing to assist the board in any way that you need me. So,
Again, we just approved it on we can do it for IDA.
We did,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll make the motion.
and we can incorporate the discussion by reference. That this was also it was also discussed with respect to CRC.
All right, so we did accept this as for
you need a motion to approve
CRC.
legal counsel for the idea.
the IDA also.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, I would comment, because I would ask that we go in executive session to discuss the sale of property.
Okay. Any public comment this time? Anyone else? No public comment. We need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move it.
Second,
Mr. Chairman, I would mention that we will not do any other business. We will adjourn immediately after the executive session, so that anyone who is watching this online will know that when we come out of executive session, the meeting will be adjourned.
need a motion and a second to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
As you know, we had the SAD development project. They put an option on the project. They offered us $120,000. At the time when I submitted it to the Authority Budget Office for approval, I indicated to the Authority Budget Office offline that I thought the price was really way over market. And they said that I couldn't address that in my letter to them. So what we did is we took, and I was fearful that the prospective purchaser would find out that we were telling the state that they were going to pay too much. But in any event, the way I justified it was I took an average of all the assessments and all the land values for those assessments in the Commerce Park. And there is one or two that the people should be challenging their assessment. I'm not going to point it out to them, but they were at $35,000 an acre, and the others were at like $17,000 an acre. So, when you averaged it all out, it was about, well, actually there were some below 10. So it was $17,000 an acre average. We had a Richard Kuhn from First Propane, First Fuel. He wants to buy it. He bought the building out of bankruptcy from Architectural Cast Stone in the Commerce Park, and he's using that for some type of facility to put together and fabricate and manufacture HVAC components that he then takes to houses or commercial buildings to install and service. And he wants to build a building to expand that business. So he wanted to make an offer, and I said, well, we can't decide on what the price should be until we get an appraisal, because we're not going to sell it for 40 grand like the earlier projects were sold, and at the same time, it's not worth 120. So Ted had ordered, as part of the first transaction, a survey, and I contracted for, I think it was $2,000 for Concord to do an appraisal. Concord should have that appraisal within 2 weeks. And then, I think the IDA has to review that appraisal and decide, we have an offer on the table to purchase it, but they're looking for us to give the price. I think we would go back to him and say, well, what are you offering? But I don't think we can sell it less than the appraised value because we have to submit it to the authority budget office for approval. And I don't know that you would do the penalty mortgage model again in this environment. I think that one of the issues with the penalty mortgage was, you pay 40 grand for the lot, and then you have to build. If you don't build on it in 2 years, you have to pay a penalty of 40,000. Perhaps if you did it again, you might say, if you don't build in 2 years, you give us back the lot. We foreclose on it.
Yeah.
But because we've got 6 lots sitting up there that are empty, and we were trying to think about talking to the county about where do we start to look for another Commerce Park expansion? And it's hard to convince anyone of that when they see empty lots up there. So, I think that I just wanted to get you alerted to this. The county has approved the sale at 120. So again, I'd have to go back and show them, the appraisal. And I do understand, I don't have any ability to discuss it, but I do understand that Bill First is moving forward with the sale of his land. So that should give us a pretty good comp, although, that's a large acreage on that corner.
How many acres is that for 120,000?
I think it was 4 or 5 acres. Yeah. So, at 20 grand an acre, it's 100. At 15 an acre, it's 75. So it's somewhere between 75 and 100,000 is my guess, but we'll see where he comes out and what his comps are. Again, in the past, we've taken back a mortgage on it, and the county has, we paid the county the principal and we keep the interest. He may not need a mortgage or may not want a mortgage, depending on, if he's going to finance a building, he's not going to want a mortgage. LIMS came in when they finally signed the contract with the contractor, and they needed the money to buy the building and develop the site. They paid off their mortgage. So, I
What
think.
are building costs for the buildings out there now?
Well, it depends. I think, if it's, I'm not sure if it's going to be a 5,000 or 10,000 square foot building. I don't think the lot would support much more than that. But I would suspect $1.5 million to $2 million based on what LIMS spent. One of the problems on this site is there's a lot of site work because there's, I guess, running right through it is a wetland, not a
It's not a flood zone.
not a designated DEC wetland, but there's water.
Yeah. Right.
So, but the county would get the funding over time, and or they could get it all up front.
Yeah, the county is the owner of this property.
Right, we're just the agent for the county. The difficult is that's why I thought the only way to be able to sell it, because you've got to go to the county and say, okay, we're only going to get you 80 for the property. We thought we were going to get you 125 or 120, was to have a current appraisal. Any questions or? The other thing is that, the whole issue of housing, and I'll start getting some articles together for you, because obviously housing doesn't create jobs, but it does support people who need to live somewhere to do a job. And, I do think it's and when you have affordable or low-income housing projects, they do ask for a deviation from the standard pilot. And again, I'm not really, let me get you some background information so you can begin to think through what your position may be individually and as a group with respect to a government-supported housing project. Obviously, we're in a home rule county where it's important that the town that the project is located in is interested in the project or approves the project. And we saw that with the solar projects. And, we've been asked by the Board of Supervisors not to consider the Hecate Solar Project until if and when it's approved. Now, the town lost its case in the appellate division, or no, I'm sorry, in the Article 78 Supreme Court,
Yeah, they may appeal that.
and they may appeal that. But it was pretty clear that, it followed the reasoning of the other cases, that the state had the ability to set up this special independent.
Yeah, it's a heavy lift.
Yeah. So, I know that at the same time, the pressure on the IDA is going to be that if the only way the project gets, if they get the approval to build the project, but the only way the project is economically viable is to have IDA financing, and the town's opposed to it, I think we're going to be in a tough position.
Yeah, no, I don't think the IDA should
Yeah.
contravene the town.
Yeah. So, and we primarily, the Board of Supervisors voted opposed to the project unanimously, I believe.
One of the things that I think we used to do when we did the penalty mortgage, half price sales, is the IDA did get some kind of administrative fee from the county for doing that.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna sell property to Richard Kuhn for say $80,000.
We should get something, yeah.
Yeah, we should get some kind of administrative fee out of it before the county gets the balance,
Okay,
I would say.
great.
Yeah, for the coffers.
Okay, unfortunately, we should come out of the,
Okay, I need a motion to second to come out of executive session.
I'll move it.
Second.
I'll second
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
it.
if we're all done, there's no other questions? Ted? I gotta close the meeting.
Right. You gotta close the executive session and just close the meeting.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
motion to adjourn the
So
meeting.
moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm off to a presentation. I hope the other people are more prepared than I am, but a lot of stuff going on.
Nice job, Mike.
Well, thanks, but I wish
All
it
right,
was,
Teddy, take it.
I wish life was simpler.
All right, don't go out. Yeah.
Keep them in line. There's the police, like,